would cover is my view of what discretionary energy is, kind of a suggested context for that, and a structure including 5 levels. And then to make the point that discretionary energy in business processes and in staff processes, specifically IT, I think are the same. And then how would you get this from others? That's a key topic. And of course, how do you do it yourself? Maybe the most important. And then to look at how we can move people from apathy, which seems to be endemic today all over, to curiosity, a human trait, to interest and then to passion, or to the decision to generate energy, to give energy, to provide the energy that you were kind of keeping for yourself. And then how do you transfer this to business purposes, to align it with the organization, as it were, and what are the necessary conditions for doing that? And then is this whole set of thoughts something that's completely customized, or is it a general theory that can be applied? And then finally, how do you get others to do it on their own continually? That would be the ultimate leadership goal. And then we'll have some Q&A and feedback, etc. So you should be looking at slide 10, discretionary energy. It's got 5 points on it there. And the top one, peak performance, is, you might say, 95 to 110% people operating at a level beyond what they thought they could. You can't stay there for a very long period of time. We've all been there a couple times in our life. And you might think a little bit about what was going on when you were at that level in your mind. What made you operate that way? How'd you feel? What the work was, etc. And to remember that gives you an insight into how to generate this kind of discretionary energy. Below that, down to maybe 65%, 65 to 95% is what is labeled there, turned on and focused. And lots of people can operate there on their own. You're lucky if you have enough of those kind of people in your staff. In general, people are always looking to increase that number. And then maybe the large middle class, so to speak, the middle of the classic bell curve, from 30 to 65%, the average performers. Below that, all the way down to termination, would be the lower performers and people that are just kind of turned off, so to speak, the opposite of this discretionary energy. And that, again, today seems to be endemic. And then the people that are really below zero in a way, they're still there, but they're not carrying their weight. There are lots of workarounds or people that are just kind of hanging on, et cetera. And, they're always there. And you might think about, well, that was an area to work on. So business discretionary energy is probably the same as IT discretionary energy, depending on maybe style or timing or maybe even goals, maybe how it's applied. But in general, this idea of people deciding to give you more, deciding to give you what they were holding back because they now believe or they now see the purpose or they now feel aligned to it or they think it's the right thing to do, etc. That's the key. So how do you elicit that? How do you get people to move up the scale? How do you get people to get up to the turned on and focused level and up to getting close to peak performance? And I have on slide 11, you should be looking at, just 5 simple ideas of mine. There are lots more. This set of 5 is just a starter kit. You can add your own. That's what the 6th bullet down, which just shows a few dots there. That's kind of the key idea of this entire webinar, is for people to generate their own way of figuring out how to do this. So the first idea is that classic cliche of the highest single action, the highest leveraged single action any manager can take is to fire the worst performer. And the reason for that is that people in general always know that anyways. Most of the time they've been thinking it should have been done. This should have been handled a long time ago. And so everybody knows forced ranking, which not all organizations do, but some do. You can do it on your own, whether or not it's a corporate policy. Forced ranking helps this. so that it's clear who the very bottom people are. The second kind of idea would be to assign people according to their passions, rather than putting people in boxes to find jobs. This would be building a box, an organizational assignment, a set of responsibilities around their interests. Right-sizing, perhaps it's called. Lots of people would say, well, I can't do that. I mean, we wouldn't be able to fill up the classic jobs we have. Well, maybe you don't do it completely, but maybe you can do it for a large part of the organization. You can assign people to the things where they will get turned on their own. The third example, of course, is another cliche, the one that's so clear, your own example, to provide it. The Mahatma Gandhi quote of, live first the change you seek to bring about in others. So to provide the leadership by your own example. The fourth suggestion would be to look carefully at the reward system. Lots of reward processes today seem to be more aimed at keeping people doing what they've been doing, not getting demerits, so to speak, keeping out of trouble. And here we're talking about asking people to take some risk or to move up in their focus of what they might try. And in order to do that, you often have to be almost in cahoots with the HR function, like I said, conspiracy there, to have an inventive relationship. Now, lots of people might argue that HR functions just basically tell you what you can't do or what might be illegal or what might get you in trouble, but working closely with people in HR so that they maybe don't necessarily approve, but know what you're doing, having that crucial partnership is absolutely imperative. For a long time in my career, I collected people who had both IT and HR reporting to them, because it seemed to me that they were both the same coin but different sides, the people, the behaviors, and then the things or the processes. And the last point is to be able to explain it or motivationally kind of package it. A client of mine recently hired a new CIO from the advertising industry. They're in manufacturing. And many of the people were astonished in the IT function. And the explanation from executive management was that they wanted somebody who could articulate, who could package, who could present, who could sell, who could tell the benefits of what was going on, who could explain and provide it in a way so that people would respond to it. So you can add your own thoughts to that. How do you elicit this idea of getting people to turn over to you additional energy when really you don't have any other option? Full-time equivalents are hard to come by today. So you might say, well, being focused on the future would be a sixth point, whatever, but to add your own. So then slide 11, or slide 12, excuse me, says, well, how would you do this for yourself? I mean, often we expect the organization to elicit this from us, but nobody else is going to do it. If you think of children, children do this naturally when they're small. They work at or play at or do things with full concentration and intensity. Now we kind of sandpaper that out of them over the years, and especially by the time they get into school, teaching them how they should act according to some cultural norms. But this is a very natural human trait to be turned on. And lots of times people then have learned to hide it or to keep it back for themselves, as I said before.